What's going on, guys? It's Aaron here. You know what the best part about doing the Schmoedown Rundown for SK Plus is? It's not talking to all the great guests that we've had. It's not breaking down each and every match every week for the Schmoedown. It's the fact that I get to do it in my underpants, and nobody can tell me not to. And if I'm going to do it in my underpants, I might as well wear the softest, most comfortable underwear you'll ever wear, which is MeUndies. Once you try them, you won't want to wear anything else unless you're naked or in a swimsuit. Every pair of MeUndies is sustainably sourced and made from micromodal, a fabric that's 3 times softer than cotton. If you're used to buying packs of uncomfortable, boring underwear that only come in white, gray, black, tan, nobody cares about those. MeUndies will change the game. They'll change everything. Because MeUndies comes in all kinds of colors and patterns, and they release a new limited edition pattern each month that always sell out. This month is a rainbow confetti print called Celebrate. Try MeUndies today. Go get the Celebrate pattern before they're all gone at MeUndies.com/rundown, and you'll save 20% off of your first pair. 20% off your first pair plus free shipping at MeUndies.com/rundown. Go right now. That's MeUndies.com/rundown. MeUndies.com/rundown.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Schmoedown Rundown. Introducing first, Frankie Stats Janisch, and their co-host, the man of controversy, Mr. Brian "The Duke" Davids. And finally, your host, Aaron Turner. Let's get ready to Schmoedown.
What's going on, Movie Trivia Schmoedown fans? It is episode number 36 of the Schmoedown Rundown, the official after show for the Movie Trivia Schmoedown. My name is Aaron. I am your host as always, and this week I'm joined once again by the Stat Lord, Stat Man, Stat Guy, Statty McStatterson, Frank Janisch. What's going on, man?
That's right. Heck, chop. What a week.
Didn't know you were an Atlanta Braves fan. All right, moving on. Also here is Mr. Brian Davids. Sir, how are you today?
Sorry, I guess I still have some dirt in my throat from Tuesday's funeral. I was told that Father Harloff said a few words during my burial and that Miss Movies made muffins, but it sure feels good to know that Tom Mix wept.
All right. Let's jump into the news. Let's do that right away. Let's get that taste out of our mouth. And let's talk about the expanded schedule that Christian dropped this week on the Movie Trivia Schmoedown Facebook page that basically gave us the outline for the Ultimate Schmoedown and how that's going to work. And we got some TBD matches, some with DC movie news. We got one. We got Scott Manson's a to-be-determined match. We got Deep Cuts versus IGN, which was announced. We got Only Stupid Answers versus a to-be-determined team. A lot of things going on. Brian, I'll start with you on this. What sticks out to you?
Yeah, I've got July 18th and August 11th. I got those matches circled. July 18th is the debut of Only Stupid Answers. That's Sam Basher, one of the source-fed leftovers, if you will, versus a to-be-determined team. I also mentioned August 11th as DC Movie News returns against another to-be-determined team. I have a prediction here. I think one of these teams, these TBD teams, will be the debut of the Beast in Teams, with Whitney Seibold by his side, his podcast partner canceled too soon, or canceled cast, whatever it's called.
Canceled too soon.
Canceled too soon. That is the next logical addition with the subtraction of Tuff Beats, which is Beast joining the team fold. More on this later.
Beauty and the Beast. I like it.
Yeah, actually, I'm looking at the schedule, and Burnett and Inman is very intriguing to me because Inman's been, for the longest time, trying to prove himself in the Inner Geekdom, and he's going to get his shot against a former champion, Robert Meyer Burnett. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that all goes down because there should be a lot of smack talking on both sides, and it's going to be a great match.
All right, well, let's move on. We appreciate that, the expanded schedule. Let's talk about Inside Schmoedown and what went down this week. The pit boss has returned, and he had John Roca in studio. What stuck out this week, guys?
Well, Ken pressed Roca's buttons by asking about the strength of his nose partnership heading into Tuesday's title match, as well as the health of the Four Horsemen, specifically his relationship with William Bibbiani. And based on this exchange, it became clear in my mind that the Four Horsemen are done. I think Bibb's new team won't be in the Horsemen stable any longer. And when was the last time we even saw Robert Meyer Burnett? He wasn't at Beast Harloff, if you recall. His absence smells like Dan Murrell and the Den all over again. And if he's not present at Tuesday's Patriots versus Top 10, then I'll be convinced that the Four Horsemen will be put down sooner rather than later.
Interesting take. Frank, what do you think? Anything stick out to you on Inside Schmoedown?
Here's the thing. You said he talked about Roca and Nos relationship, right? So there's no way I will ever believe there's a strain between Roca and Nos. I think they have a very, very solid relationship. And no matter how either one does in a match, they won't ever point to the other and say it's their fault that they lost because they win as a team and they lose as a team. And I firmly believe that they believe that, even though Nos will say, I had a bad game, it's on me. You always hear Roca say, no, we lost as a team. And vice versa. You know, Nos will have a good game and Roca will say, it's on me. And then Nos will say, we lost as a team. So I don't think there's anything that can come between Roca and Nos at this point, from what I've seen.
So even if they lose Tuesday, you're not worried about the strength or the stability of Top 10?
I'm not worried about Top 10. The Four Horsemen is a different matter entirely. I think we've kind of seen the writing on the wall for them for a while, but I don't think Roca and Nos, I don't think anything's going to happen with them, if ever, to be quite honest.
I mean, the Horseman split has been set up for a while. The Beast said some stuff on this very show, in fact, and the place to execute that split, of course, is the big event Collision. Aaron, do you think the Horsemen are in immediate danger?
Well, let's just put it this way. It took me a couple minutes to figure out who was even in the Horsemen. It doesn't take me nearly as long to figure out the Lions in. I can name them off to you right away. It takes me a minute to grab Burnett or grab Bibbiani because they're never together, like you said. And that's a problem. I know that schedules conflict or whatever, but it just seems like for the most part, the Lions Den, those guys are always there supporting each other. And the Four Horsemen are estranged. I don't know. Probably. A breakup is coming probably.
Yeah, I mean, we tend to remember the better of the two. So it's no surprise that we all know the Lions Den off the top of our head. So... well, before we get to our breakdown of the team match, I want to get one more prediction on record. Collider has undergone some changes lately. I predict come early August that we'll have 3 matches per week, with the third match meant to facilitate Inner Geekdom. Sometimes they'll do a second singles or a second team match, but I think this will mostly be for IGD. So I am putting this prediction in ink right now. Frank, reaction?
I don't think so. I don't know when. I'm not going to predict when. I just don't think it's going to happen when you say you think it might happen. But I just don't see it in the cards this year.
Fine.
I'm sorry. Did you say you were predicting this, Brian?
Yes.
Disagree 100%. All right.
Okay.
Let's move on. Okay. Very interesting. Well, I'll tell you somebody that is going to make an appearance on this show. His name is Tom Dagnino.
Oh, yeah? Was I there?
Yeah. He is the leader of the Lions Den.
Did I have a good time?
He's the what?
Just checking.
He's the captain of Chess Definition. He has a big beard. I don't know. He likes throwback NFL shirts. And
he likes
will be
the
joining us
Mets.
a little bit
That's
later.
weird.
Now, Aaron, you said that Finstock was your favorite character in this space. Does that also apply to Tom Dagnino?
I don't know who Finstock is, but Tom Dagnino is a great dude, and I like him a lot.
No, really, is he still your favorite regardless of which one he's playing?
I don't know who Finstock is. I don't even know what you're talking about, but I do like Tom Dagnino. He's great.
Okay, well, I tried to back you into a corner and it didn't work.
As usual. All right, let's get to the team recap. Let's talk about it. All right, in our team recap this week, it is Team Tuff Beats versus Team 6 Degrees. Loser leaves town match. Let's talk about the promos at first. What happened?
Jay Washington, the urban gladiator, proved why he is an unbelievable addition to the Schmoedown family. This guy gives some of the best promos you've ever seen. He was brilliant in the post-match, as we'll talk about in a second, but he's a great mouthpiece, guys. This league is filling up with great mouthpieces when you consider Tom Dagnino, Ricky Schroeder, of course, Jay Washington, as mentioned. I'm forgetting one, RB3, Johnny LaQuasto, of course. So this league is filling out every other week, it seems, or every week, it seems. And Jay just brought it this week. Even though he didn't play, he made a huge impact on me. So I'm sure you agree, Aaron.
I say this with the utmost sincerity. Jay Washington terrifies me. Like, I'm sure he's the nicest guy. I hear such things, but when I see him on screen, like, I just want to run away. Like, he is genuinely terrifying to me. That's all the notes I have for the promos.
But you value skills on the mic skills. You value this sort of thing. This is what you are interested in. He brought it.
Of course. And having that pro wrestling background, I would expect nothing less. And yeah, he's really good this week for sure.
Frank?
Jay Washington is just so fun to watch. I had a lot of fun watching him, and you're right, he's a great mouthpiece for this league. And even though what he says isn't necessarily true, or I believe it to be true, he's very convincing in how he delivers it, and that's kind of what you need as a mouthpiece in this league. And I just can't wait to see, hopefully, the day when he comes face-to-face with Tom Dagnino and they just go at it. I think that'll be a ton of fun to watch. I hope it happens.
And look, he's made it no secret that he wants to play more. He's kind of upset that he's not playing more, but he's showing up and he's making his presence felt, and you can bet that he's getting Christian's attention to where Christian will eventually put him in another Intergeekdom match or in his first Intergeekdom match.
Here's the thing. I kind of wanted more Jay on the mic as opposed to, and I say these things, and I mean, no offense. These are just observations. But I would have rather had more Jay Washington on the mic than a Perry rap that went on about 20 seconds too long. I would rather have great promo work than a rap. Just me.
Well, it was a rap plus her sing-along entrance, which we'll get to in a second.
Yeah. Yep. Let's actually just go ahead and talk about the entrances, shall we?
Yep.
Tuff Beats comes out to the Billy Madison beat, the song with the words on the screen, and I like what they were going for. I'm just gonna shoot it straight here, guys. I hated this entrance. I hated everything about it. I didn't like it. I didn't like the choreography. I thought the only person that was even on point was Perry, and everybody else was way off. And it just, I don't know, went on way too long, and I did not like it.
Billy Madison was a favorite comedy of mine growing up, so I appreciate what Perry was doing. It was an awfully cute intro or entrance. However, Josh McCouga kind of ruined it for me. I've kind of changed my opinion of McCouga over the last several months because he used to kind of go out of his way to get attention, and he still does go out of his way to get attention, but it was in a way to where I could tolerate it. But this kind of went back to his old ways that just kind of did more of a disservice than anything. But it took up a lot of time, and it ultimately did not work as effectively as shorter entrances such as 6 Degrees or even basic ones like Double Toasted Real Rejects. You don't have to do a big thing to make it a big thing.
It was adorable. It was a cute try, but like I said, it went on too long, and never, ever give Josh McCouga a prop. Never do that. Because,
that was my favorite part, man.
Dude, I knew the second that he honked it the first time, And thank God for Ellis for backing me up on it, saying, well, that's not going to get annoying. And I knew the second that he honked it the first time, it was going to be the entire match. Now, listen, I'm going to sound really negative on this episode, and I apologize, but it's just, I got to get it out. There are times when, because I know, like, when the Schmoedown's going on, Makuga's always the one that's yelling. Makuga's always the one that's whistling. I can't stand it. And
well,
it's just like...
Actually, Aaron, that's not also not necessarily true. A lot of the times, Bibiani's in that audience too, and he's hooting and hollering as well.
And Rokas. I mean, yeah, there's several people that show up every time and they make their presence felt. But that's what
I can always pick Makuga out, though, is the problem. I can always pick him out.
Because you're listening for him now.
But that's what drove me nuts earlier last year as well, because he would bring out the wheel. He would find ways to get himself on camera, and it was overexposure. So I hear what you're saying. But after talking with the guy and interacting with the guy privately, I really do like the guy. And look, everybody on this show wants attention in some way, shape, or form. That's why they do YouTube entertainment. But at some point, it doesn't hurt to dial it back a bit, especially when he's got a fantasy segment and things that are just his in the rest of the episode.
I promise you it's not going to be a full-blown burial, because later on we're going to talk about Makuga again, and it's going to come back around, I promise you. But let's talk about 6 Degrees entrance with the bad reputation, a cue from Ronda Rousey. I'll assume that was a nod to me. Thank you. And it was Brienne coming out in the Catwoman outfit. Very nice. Jay Washington just continues to haunt my nightmares as Bane. And then Stacy with the Poison Ivy get up. I really enjoyed that. However, what was with the cut with Brienne already being on the table, and then it kind of like weirdly cutted back and forth? I couldn't make sense of what was happening, and I don't know if that was like they wanted it that way, like where she was already there. I don't know. It just really confused me. Anybody
I've got some intel on this.
Well,
okay.
Before you get to that, Brian, I just want to
No.
I just want to just
go to your room, Frank.
I am in my room. I just want to say, I was kind of confused when we just saw Brienne sitting there right there on the desk as well. I was like, I wish we could have known how she got there, what she did, of her little side entrance. But that's all I wanted to say, Brian. That's all.
No, I agree. I had the same reaction, and then I did some investigative work, if that's a word. And first off, it's Bane Washington. You forgot the full thing there.
Yeah.
And Aaron, you might appreciate this. Brienne was wearing an Anne Hathaway Catwoman mask. So The Dark Knight Rises comes back again in 2 ways this episode. Stacy looked great as Poison Ivy, by the way. But this was the case with this entrance. They had this whole other sketch performed where it involved Batman 89 and a bunch of paint and a bunch of this and that and Prince music, I think. And it was a whole federal production. But it was cut because I believe Perry was doing her Billy Madison thing. I don't think they wanted to have all these prolonged entrances. So one of them had to get cut. And unfortunately, it was 6 Degrees. So that's why there was a little bit of weird editing there, for what I'm told.
That's kind of unfortunate, because this is a loser goes home match. If this is even his last hurrah, at least give them one good last entrance if this is going to be it. So
well, that's why Tough Beats got it, because the post-production factored the winner already. So
okay, that makes sense. I guess.
Well, I would have really enjoyed seeing a Party Man 6 Degrees entrance. I think that would have been pretty fun.
Yeah, that was the name of it. Can we get some deleted scenes for this episode of the Schmoedown, Christian? Thanks.
All right, let's jump into round 1 now that
Aaron is in a mood tonight, folks.
I really am. Let's jump into round 1, guys. Let's get into it. It was 6 Degrees getting 13 points, with Stacy getting 6, Brienne getting 7. Thank you, Frank. And Tough Beats getting 8. Both players splitting 4 points each. So, Brian, what do you think of round 1?
This last question, question 8, the Wild Things question, this drove me nuts because they gave away the answer by saying the co-stars Denise Richards and Matt Dillon. Everybody, I mean everybody, remembers the threesome scene, even if you've only seen one PG still from it. So this reminds me of Roka's Mrs. Doubtfire answer to beat Harloff in that classic matchup, as there were too many details in that question too. But 6 Degrees went up 13-8. And I don't know. Sometimes the wording of these questions drives me nuts for so many different reasons, but this one just had a little too much detail that you didn't need to include Denise Richards and Matt Dillon. So the Truman Show quote, Vulture cannot miss a question like that. For a guy of his age, Jim Carrey was God to us. That is just a question that you have to answer. That is a famous catchphrase, and it's a damn shame, but this is one of the reasons why he's no longer in this league.
Strippers, showgirls, and now threesomes. We are just batting 1,000. Family quality entertainment here on the Schmoedown Rundown. Frank, what did you think of round one?
Round one was an excellent round by 6 degrees. And that's really it, guys. It was a poor showing from Tuff Beats in that first round, especially the second half of that first round. I mean, Perry missed 4 in a row. And Jonathan missed 3 in a row. So it was, I mean, they collectively both for the last 3 of the 4 questions, they both missed. That's just why they're not in the league. That's part of the reason why.
Yeah, you're gonna get a couple more examples as we go on here.
I think what you saw from Perry was her competitive nature that Christian talked about. She's in a do or die situation, and she wants to stay in this league, and the competitiveness in her came out, and that's what you saw. And that's why things happened the way they happened in this match from Perry's side of things.
I wasn't a fan of it. Thank God for Stacy, and we'll get to round 2 here in a second, but thank God for Stacy saving it in round 2. Otherwise, Tuff Beats would have been the heel faction of this match. To me. I see what your point is there, Frank, but it was too much.
The very fact that Christian said that Perry is super competitive, that triggered something in me to where Christian is trying to mold her into a heel. I think he was doing future Schmoedown work, future character work by starting to shift her in that heel direction. So I'm not just thinking about the match in this case. I'm thinking bigger picture, and I think he's trying to start a rivalry between these 2 women, or the 3 women.
All right, fair enough. Well, let's jump to round 2 because I'm sure we got plenty to talk about there, where it was Tuff Beats rolling Spinner's Choice and getting Pixar and taking Pixar. 5 of 6 for 9 points. 6 degrees. Brian, I'm sure you have a lot to say about this spin, but let me get through it first.
Hold off on a second. I just want to comment on the Pixar thing, because if there's one redeeming element to Perry and Tuff Beats' swan song, it's the fact that Perry kind of dominated Pixar, and we don't see people dominate animation categories very often. Obviously, Pixar is a specific animation category, but it's so rare that it's worth celebrating, because it does show that Perry has some skill that can win her some matches. It's just not in the Tuff Beats context. So it was nice to see that there was at least one silver lining for Perry.
Yeah, it was really nice of the Perry to bring that cardboard cutout of Jonathan Voico to sit beside her.
Boom!
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, 6 degrees, unfortunately, rolled Opponent's Choice. And, Frank, this is what we were talking about earlier. Another bullet point of why Tuff Beats is no longer in the league, and that's, of course, we're getting ahead of ourselves, is why are they no longer a team? Because they picked new releases as an Opponent's Choice in an elimination game.
Instead of 90s, which they spun away from, 6 degrees, and as well as instead of comic book movies. So, Frank, do you have any idea why Perry would make this decision over 90s and comic book movies?
No, man.
Aaron, do you have any idea?
Because they wanted to lose? I don't know, but that's what they did. So 6 degrees, out of that goes 5 of 6 and gets 10 points. There's much to talk about here. Brian, I know you have something prepared. Please
I'll save that for the end, but let's talk about question 5.
Yes.
Jack Houston and Ben-Hur. I'm getting all this round 2 stuff out of the way before I sound off. But let's get to Houston first with question 5. Who is the name of the actor who played Ben-Hur, the recent Ben-Hur? And Stacy mispronounced Jack Houston as Jack Huston, but she quickly spelled out his name, for crying out loud. And in this space and on this show, people mispronounce actor names all the time. This is why round one has them write the answer in case they don't say it right. So if you were to imagine this to be round one, they'd see that she wrote the correct answer spelled correctly, and it'd be case closed. Plus, Stacy is from Texas. She's accustomed to Houston being spelled like the city in her home state. Jack Houston with no O at the beginning is bound to confuse people, especially a native Texan. But if Django was allowed, Huston has to be allowed. But it's just kind of too bad, though, that there isn't a show with a mispronunciation segment in order to help Schmoedown players and YouTube pundits improve pronunciations like Jack Houston or Denis Villeneuve or Nomi Rapace or Mahershala Ali or Zendaya.
I don't miss that at all.
I don't either. And hopefully Gal Gadot will come back around later on.
Just twisting the knife. Twisting the knife.
I really am.
But
yeah, so
that new releases pick by Perry led to one of 6 Degrees' best rounds. They got 10 points.
That was their best round ever.
10 points.
Houston, Huston, green jacket, gold jacket. Who gives a shit is what I'm saying.
And look, I don't understand why Perry continued to challenge that question or that answer, because if she would kind of just read the room, she had to have known they were probably going to give her the points anyways. So I don't understand why you would waste a challenge in that situation if you kind of just read the room and see what's going on and how she's explaining herself. And now the judges have all heard her explanation, and then you still want to challenge. I didn't understand that. I didn't really come back to bite them in the end, but I just thought it was a poor use of a challenge.
That's why I think that she's going heel, because she went out of her way to be a heel in this match, which was very uncharacteristic for her. So I think this is setting up the future arc of her character.
Well, like I said, they tried to steal 6 Degrees' heat, and thank God for Stacy for kind of pitching a fit about the challenge to get some of that heat back. She was not having it.
I just had something that's kind of popped in my head, because I don't think Perry by nature is a heel type of sorts, but I think in certain situations when she's put in certain spots, that certainly comes out. So I don't know if she would be like a full-blown heel or just in a very, if she's in certain situations where that comes out. So you never know what you might get from Perry. She'd be good, she'd be bad. I think if it was to come down the line and she's a lot more in the singles, I'm wondering if you might see that kind of character from her down the line.
I've got a prediction to as far as what she could do next. I'll save that, but we got to talk about question 6 in the Pixar turn for Tuff Beats, because Tuff Beats missed it, and the steal went to 6 Degrees, and they asked for the multiple choice answers, but they said, can we get the answer instead of answers plural? And Mark cracked a bunch of jokes, but it was just a weird moment because they looked like deer in the headlights when asking for the multiple choice answers. And the problem was Tuff Beats did not give a loud enough answer. They did not say the answer. They said B or D, and Brienne couldn't hear what their answer was. So they were trying to hear what Tuff Beats' answer was so that they could do process of elimination. So, Aaron, this is something that you pointed out in our show notes, but I think absolutely every multiple choice answer should be repeated, including the answer that the opponent gave, because it was not said loud enough by Tuff Beats in this case, and I don't blame Brienne and 6 Degrees for wanting clarity on that point.
Yeah, and I think even on screen it needs marked out as well, just for added clarity, which I know they can't see, but yeah, it needs to be repeated. If they don't ask for it, that's fine, but if they ask for, hey, what was their answer, and they didn't hear it, you got to give it to them. Like sportsmanship.
That's the thing. We lose patience with them because we can see the questions and answers and they can't. We're forgetting the fact that they are doing this from memory in the moment, and that's very difficult. So we got to have patience with this. Some people were freaking out about, oh, it was Toy Story 3 when the question was only asking for what franchise, and that was the Toy Story franchise. Frank?
Yeah, I was going to say real quick about hearing the other team's answer when it's multiple choice. You know, whoever's at the desk, they're hearing it through headphones, so they can hear it through the microphone. So they won't know necessarily that whoever didn't say it loud enough. So if the other team asks for what did they say because I didn't hear, then they got to turn to somebody like at the judge's desk or what have you and say, was it loud enough to hear? And then make the ruling on that in that situation, whether or not to give the opposing team the answer that was said, just so it's fair. Because I could sit here and not pay attention. They say the answer loud enough and I go, oh, I didn't hear what they said. Well, that's because you weren't paying attention, not because it wasn't said loud enough. So if that ever does become a scenario in the future, I hope it's handled in a much fair manner.
But don't you think they should have to say the answer, not the letter? Because I think it was Vulture that said B or D, and they couldn't hear if he said B or D. So I think the answer should be read as in the full answer. That way the other team, has a better chance of hearing what they said versus just a letter.
Real quick, I don't think they should be forced to say the answer that's assigned to the letter. I think that should be part of your strategy to not say the name. Just say the letters so that in case you get it wrong, the other team
it's harder for them,
it's harder for them.
But then there's going to be more repeat requests, and the rule is you get one repeat of the multiple choice answers before it gets into your official repeat requests. Aaron, did you have any thoughts on whether teams should be forced to give the actual answer versus the letter?
I don't think it doesn't really matter either way to me, but if I'm sitting at that table and someone's honking a clown horn and I don't hear what the other team is saying,
exactly.
And I ask for it to be repeated, I need it to be. And I think it's not hard to ask. I think it's very sportsmanlike to give it to them. I think that's if they ask for it, give it to them. If not, who cares?
Aaron, if Chris Hardwick was here, you would get points because you brought up a great point. When Voitko is mumbling B or D, and you've got Josh McCouga screaming in the crowd and honking clown cowbells, whatever you want to call it, of course it's going to be hard to hear the answer. That's why I do think they should have to say the actual answer versus the letter. That way, the gameplay is sped up and we're not slowed down by asking for what were the options again? What were the answers again? So.
All right, well, let's close out the round 2 scoring talk with the steals, which was Tuff Beats getting 1 point from steals with Underworld Blood Wars, stealing that from 6 Degrees. 6 Degrees got one of their own by stealing the aforementioned Toy Story franchise question. So after the second round, 6 Degrees led 24-18. Brian, close us out here.
All right, so as everybody saw, Mr. Christian Harloff buried me after Stacy's second spin.
Oh, that was so great.
How dare you, Frank? But I'm going to go off on an old school rant that I haven't done on this show, really. I used to do these all the time, but I'm going to really dig in here. So, Aaron, Frank, sit back, relax, and just let me go to work.
I'm going to get a beer. I'll be right back.
That's fine. So I've got to sound off on Christian's unfair burial as to what is being dubbed the Brian Davids method. We got to work on a better name for it, but every few months I'm thrown into a thing that wouldn't be a thing if people would simply listen to my carefully chosen words without omitting context. When the new wheel debuted, I noticed 2 things. People were afraid to give it a hard spin as they didn't want to tip it over. Stacy proved this on her weak second spin by saying that she didn't want to knock it over. The crowd booed the spin, but more on that spin in a second. More importantly, the biggest takeaway from the new wheel was that there were more second spins landing on the same category as the first spin. After all, there were less categories. So let's call these repeat spins moving forward. I started watching this development rather closely, as did Frank, and once I drew attention to it on the show, at that point, the vast majority of repeat spins had occurred with the ticker starting on the category that they had just spun away from, literally the vast majority. So my advice to the league, which was a bit tongue-in-cheek, was to simply move the ticker to a different category to avoid getting the same category you just passed on. And relative to this new wheel's second spin sample size, it certainly couldn't hurt to try and buck this trend. Again, it couldn't hurt. However, I'm seeing some people turn this into the Brian Davids method of getting better spins, which was never the case. I never said if you move the ticker to a particular category that you will get that particular category. I never said you are precluded from landing on other bad wheel categories. How could I when the wheel categories change every match? It was simply a matter of avoiding the category you spun first. Some toolbox in the comments keeps bringing up the odds being 1 in 12, as if I don't know that. However, this dial tone kept ignoring the context of this point and how it's relative to this new wheel sample size of second spins, where the vast majority of repeat spins have taken place with the ticker left on the category they started with. In a year, this may not be a trend, but at the time of this advice, it was and still is. So when Christian buried me by saying my strategy didn't work, it absolutely worked because 6 Degrees did not spin 90s again, a category they purposely spun away from. They landed on opponent's choice, which shouldn't have even been on the wheel in the first place. However, my strategy was never about getting a better category. It was about not repeating the same category. But guess what happened? 6 Degrees had their best round ever as Tuff Beats handed them new releases instead of 90s, instead of comic book movies. So everything worked out thanks to Stacy moving the ticker to drama per the Brian Davids method. Also, how can you fault me for her second weak spin? The crowd was booing how weak it was. Team Action got to redo theirs recently, but 6 Degrees didn't for some reason. Regardless, this also leads to another point about why repeat categories happen. When you perform a motion in front of people, be it spinning a wheel, throwing a bowling ball, rolling dice at a craps table, or swinging a bat, you're nervous because you don't want to screw up in front of 100,000 people or 10 people. So we often repeat the same motion on the second go-around if the first go-around wasn't a complete disaster. So I think a lot of people fail to increase or decrease the speed on their second spin and just opt to do exactly what they did the first time, hence a similar result in a lot of cases so far. Lastly, people were so focused on the second spin that they didn't stop to recognize that my strategy was somewhat vindicated on the first spin. Frank, what did Stacy spin on her first spin?
I'll take 90s for 1,000, Brian.
That's right, 90s. Well, guess what the ticker started on? 90s. And even with her weak second spin, they were one category away from landing on drama, which is where she moved the ticker on the second spin. So if that's not vindication, I don't know what is. That being said, Christian has already made up for this burial to an extent, as we're given a lot of perks for doing the show. I just want to make that clear.
Here's a couple things I learned from what you just said. Number one, you are doing an impression of Han Solo as to never tell you the odds. Got you.
I appreciate that.
Frank, I knew you'd like that one. Other than that, I think you make a lot of sense. I've actually come up with a solution to your Brian Davids method being too long of a name, and to simplify it, let's just shorten it to the Brian method, or let's shorten it even more than that and call it the BM method, or just the BM.
Well, that's a bowel movement then.
Exactly.
Guys, I've got the best name in the world for it. BDSM. BDSM.
No.
Brian Davids spin method. The Brian Davids spin method.
Everyone listening was probably thinking it, but you didn't have to go ahead and say it.
Nobody knows what that means. Brian Davids spin method. BDSM.
All right. Well,
it's too perfect. God
somehow he went over top of me on that one. That was unbelievable.
Let's talk about the future of Perry and Jonathan. Since
hold on. I gotta update the scorecard here. So that's strippers, showgirls, threesomes, BMs, and BDSM. Just unbelievable stuff you are learning here on this show.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Perry and Jonathan as a team. Here's the deal.
Do not hashtag.
Let's talk about round 3 real quick, and let's get to it. So round 3, Tuff Beats was against the wall. They were down 24-18. They missed the 2-pointer. Jonathan jumped the gun on RoboCop films. There are 4, not 3. If you include
Jonathan's career in a nutshell.
Ouch. If you include the Joel Kinnaman reboot with Michael Keaton, sure.
Not bad. Not good, not bad, not good.
Great. And then, of course, Perry missing the 3-pointer, which was Kevin Costner Dances with Wolves. She gave a pretty good answer with Clint Eastwood, just not what it was supposed to be.
Can I address this real quick? Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt, but Christian said this is why you should never listen to Brian Davids, blah, blah, blah. However, he did say Martin Scorsese exactly as I once advised people to say it. So clearly Christian is listening to Brian Davids to some extent.
Well, I'm glad that I got interrupted for that. But then it ended up being a TKO as 6 degrees. TKO Tuff Beats 24-18. Tuff Beats is no more, I got to say, as big of a fan as Perry and Jonathan as I am, I'm not sad to see this team disband. And I have to make a point here because Christian and Mark were talking about it. I heard people talking about it in the comments. They were saying, well, who are Perry and Jonathan going to team up with next? Are they going to form a team? They should not be allowed to form another team right now. They should have to wait until the season is over to get new teammates. Otherwise, what's the point of breaking up if you can just find another team member right away? Makuga and Finstock is different. Finstock quit the team. It's different.
Counterpoint.
I don't like that.
Should Robert Butler be penalized for Cobster's ineptitude?
Because Cobster quit.
Should Elliot Dewberry be penalized because of Ricky Schroeder's ineptitude?
Yes.
I mean, there's good players on bad teams, unfortunately, and sometimes you don't know they're going to be bad teams until they have a sample of matches. So,
well, I'm not talking about them individually. I'm not talking about that particular thing individually. I'm talking about just losing as a team. You're a team, you lost. Why should you be able to form another team? I don't understand that.
Well, you should be allowed to play again this season. Sure, you can say this is my new
teammate.
teammate
In this season, just not in teams, because your team obviously you're not good in teams because you got beat and you lost 3 matches in a row. You're done.
No, what I'm saying is you could form a new team. You just can't play again this season as a team. That's what I'm trying to say.
So you're fine. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, form a new team, but I don't. That's fine if you want to form a new team, but you should not be able to play as a team on a team for the rest of the season.
I agree.
I've cooled on the Drewberry idea, even though it's a great portmanteau. I do like the idea of Perry and McQueenie forming a very nice combo. But yeah, there is something to be said about these teams that lose these breakup matches, the players involved in those teams not playing for a while. But like I've been saying for 3 months, by the time Spider-Man Homecoming was coming out, there would only be one Vulture in town, and my timing was impeccable. I'm really disappointed, though, that Vulture didn't live up to his debut's promise. He missed a lot of questions over his several matches that dudes need to know, be it Maximus's name, the number of RoboCop films, the catchphrase from The Truman Show. I'd like to see him take a year to regroup, a year to train, maybe go to the minors with Brent Marriott and just see what happens. You don't want to rule anyone out from playing ever again, but he has to prove himself on another level and show people he's studying.
Can I ask you guys a question real quick? Who do you think was the strongest of the two? Just on pure eye test of Perry and Jonathan, who do you think was the stronger of the two?
Perry proved it with Pixar.
I'll say Perry as well.
Okay, so if you break down their individual questions, this excludes round 2. So you can then use that.
That was Perry's best round.
Right, sure. I'm not going to disagree with that. I'm just saying if you take a look at their round 1 and how they performed in round 3, you combine those together, they each had 30 questions asked to them over their careers. Perry answered 13 correctly. Jonathan answered 12 correctly. Where the big difference is in round 3, the final round, Perry was 2 for 3 questions in the final round. Jonathan Voico was 0 for 3 in the final round.
Also, the degree of difficulty of his questions missed, especially in round 3, the ones he missed were so easy. These were pop culture staples that he was missing. But the very fact that Perry succeeded in Pixar is why I think she needs to be a part of this league somehow, some way, because there are so few people that can succeed in Pixar, and yet she did. So we know that she's strong in other categories like horror, thriller. It hasn't really reflected itself in the Schmoedown, but Perry's definitely got a future. I don't know when they bring her back. She'd be good with McQueenie, but Voico has to sit out at least a year and prove himself on another level in the minors.
Well, I want to talk about something else here because I feel like we're talking about tough beats a lot. And let's not take anything away from 6 Degrees. Great effort by them. Their best match they've played. They came to play. They came to win. They came to fight. And I'll say this. I don't think they deserve to be in this position either. I don't think that 6 Degrees deserve to be in a position to where they would be disbanded. Tough beats? Yes. I think that a team like the Night Sisters, who have lost 2 matches in a row by TKO, should have been in this spot. It was not fair to 6 Degrees, whatever. But I never felt like they should have been in this spot, and they proved that they did not deserve to be in that spot by the performance that they had. I thought they were great.
6 Degrees freaking crushed this match. It is one of the best matches that has happened this or ever, really, actually. Now I'm looking at the numbers here. It's the 5th best accurate performance for a team match at 82%. They're behind 4 other teams in the entire history of the team league. One of the greatest we've seen in the league, and yet it was in a loser goes home match. Unbelievable.
And they spun opponent's choice. And if the higher ranked team gets to the choice of keeping or removing spinners / opponent's choice, why were these categories on the wheel when Brienne famously wanted them removed from elimination matches as per her Facebook post? So I'm shocked that they were even on this wheel. Any ideas, guys?
I'm not sure, but you made another good point. 6 Degrees had everything working against them. They spun opponent's choice, and Tough Beats spun spinner's choice. It's the Kobayashi Maru, dare I say, of Schmoedown scenarios. Like, that's the absolute worst 2 spins that could happen to you as a team in an elimination match, and they still won.
This match eerily reminds me of another breakup match where the Wangers inexplicably gave Real Rejects mixed bag after Real Rejects spun opponent's choice, just like 6 Degrees. The Wangers had an 8-7 lead, and they kept Real Rejects in the match when they could have buried them with movie release dates. But Real Rejects famously won the match with the easiest final question in Schmoedown history by having to name one of the 7 2016 Best Picture nominees besides Spotlight. Both matches even had pronunciation controversies, including Huston, Houston, and the Django. So it's crazy how similar these 2 breakup matches were.
That's why we are the ones doing the job, folks. You're never going to hear any kind of commentary anywhere else other than right here on the Schmoedown Rundown. Let's jump into the post-match interview. It is Jay Washington, guys.
Brilliant.
Continues to horrify me once again with his cackling. My skin was crawling. I was kind of laughing inside, but I was kind of scared at the same time. Frank, what'd you think of it?
Oh, I loved it, man. It was great. He's so good at being the mouthpiece for 6 Degrees. He's so good on the mic. The laughing just made it even better. And he totally played it up, and it worked for me. And he leaves and he comes back and laughs in Emma's face again. It's genius. I loved it. I couldn't stop laughing at it. It was great. It was a great moment.
Brian, do you want more of Bane Washington?
He was brilliant. He's a pro. He showed a good attitude. He's upset that he's not playing, but he still made his presence felt. He put himself over. He put himself over himself. And that says a lot about Jay, about Bane Washington. He set up the gals for the unison dismissed. I like that. I kind of wish that 6 Degrees got to talk a little more themselves, but they let their play do the talking. So I really enjoy that they made a statement to the commish by saying, we should not have been in this match to begin with. We're going to crush Tough Beats, and they did.
Another great point. I thought they also should have talked a little bit more or given that opportunity, but like you said, the play spoke for him in this instance. So well done, everybody across the board. Well done, 6 Degrees, and thank God you're not breaking up because we don't want you to. Let's jump into the singles recap this week. It is a returning Mark Baby Carrots Ellis versus the classiest of the classy, Clarke Wolfe. Before we start talking about the match, it's a thing. It's a new segment. It's a recurring segment, straight from the mind of Brian himself. It has its own theme song now. So here we go.
Tell me where in the world is
Booker T!
This week on Where in the World is Booker T? Or perhaps Bunker T, Booker T made his Baby Carrots prediction from the golf course. So we continue to be surprised by where Booker makes his pick each week. Again, who knew that I'd top the mispronunciation segment with the help of Booker T? I certainly didn't. This is such a great segment idea, and I can't believe we have theme music now.
What a world.
By the way, guys, when I saw Clarke's confidence this week on all the Collider shows, I knew that our Ellis picks were in trouble because she had this aura about herself like something amazing was happening. So we have to make our picks earlier than most people. But yeah, as soon as I saw Clarke this week, that was it.
She called us out. She even called us out on it, tagged us on Twitter and everything and said, remember what happened the last time Ellis and I went up against each other? Why are you counting me out? Clarke, we would never count you out. It's just something we have to do for the show. But thank you for calling us out on it. I am eating my words.
Well, jumping to round one, question one, Lucy Besson kicked things off 1-1. Question two, Charlie Kaufman's Oscar nom for adaptation, 2-1, Clarke Wolfe. Really great pull there. Question three, District 9's bureaucrat, Charlito Copley, 3-2, Clarke Wolfe. Question four, name one of the three co-stars in Zach Braff's latest film. The options were Morgan Freeman, Michael Caine, or Alan Arkin. Clarke missed this surprisingly, so Ellis tied it up 3-3. Daryl Hannah, question five, wooed by fire chief, wooed by a fire chief in Roxanne.
You mean chef?
It said chief on the it said chief on the screen. It was pronounced as chef, but that was Roxanne tying things up at 4-4. Question six, Stanley in Holes. That was Shia LaBeouf's debut film, 5-5. Ryan Gosling in Lars and the Real Girl for question seven, again tied at 6-6. Oh, by the way, folks, it's Ryan Gosling, not Ryan Gosling. Just want to make that clear. And to close out round one, question eight, Liam Neeson as Dr. David Morrow in The Haunting. And Ellis, strangely enough, oddly enough, requested a repeat. He utilized the Josh McCougar rule, and he ended up getting the point when it seemed like Clarke had the answer all along. So Ellis closed out round one 7-6, and I talked to Clarke about this moment, and she said that the question had some inaccuracies that may have caused her incorrect answer. So controversy as usual, but Ellis closes the round 7-6. Aaron Turner, let's go to you first.
Oh, first and last name. I must be in trouble. You could kind of tell that she wanted to say something at the end of that question, but it was cut out. It was cut immediately right there. So I kind of wondered, and you filled in the blank for me there, so that makes sense. She was probably going to question the wording of it. Maybe that happened off camera. I'm not sure. But if you go back and look at it, there's a quick cut right there. Also, I thought it was kind of strange that Ellis answered the horror thriller question right and Clarke didn't, even though there was obviously a controversy there. But that was kind of interesting.
I mean, Ellis is a horror thriller fan. He's not on Nightmares, obviously, but that is one of his favorite genres. Go figure.
He is, but it's Clarke's thing. Like that's what you associate Clarke Wolfe with. So it's kind of as we thought it would be in round one, 7-6. I mean, come on, it doesn't get much better than that. These are two top tier players. it went just as I expected.
Frank?
This was a great first round with two great players. These questions were, I thought, fairly difficult compared to past matches, and they were pulling out some really good answers here, and I was thoroughly impressed. And I know I shouldn't have expected less, but going into this, I was nervous for Clarke. I had picked Ellis to win, sure, but I was still nervous for Clarke. And 6 points is nothing to sneeze at in the first round. Ellis with 7, not really surprising. I didn't think he would be rusty, as some people out there may have thought. And I think you saw right away that both of these players were on top of their game.
I never understood the whole rusty argument when he's been doing stand-up for the last 6 months. During that time, he's still been doing Collider shows and schmoes. He's as sharp as ever. And as Christian said on another show somewhere, he said stand-up is like a steroid. Your brain is never functioning at a higher level than when you're a stand-up comic. So I never worry about Ellis having rust. That's ridiculous. But let's get to round 2. Again, Ellis has a 1-point lead. Clarke Wolfe gets to spin first as Ellis deferred. She spun mixed bag. She did not want mixed bag. So what did she do? She moved the ticker over, and she spun again as the ticker started on 90s. She ended up with action adventure. So once again, she didn't get the category she wanted to spin away from. Thus, the BDSM rule, the BDSM method, BDSM worked in her favor. Question 1, Gal Gadot's character in Fast and Furious, multiple choice. The answer was Giselle. So it's still tied up. It's now tied up 7-7. And question 2, Gina Davis's co-star in Cutthroat Island, multiple choice. The answer was Matthew Modine. Clarke took the lead by 1 point. It's awfully weird, though, how this question came up as Matt Atchity just referenced Rennie Harlan, who was the husband of Gina Davis and the director of Cutthroat Island. He made a reference to this last week during his match. So it's crazy that it came up in Clarke's match the very next week. So try and figure that one out. But Clarke made the mistake of thinking that Matthew Modine was Gina Davis's husband, and she later corrected herself that Rennie Harlan was her husband, and that was in the post-match. Question 3, the best friend in National Treasure, multiple choice again. She's playing small ball, as Aaron likes to say. And the answers, the multiple choice answers represented names from all these Schmoedown folks: Riley, Cody, Mark, and I'm forgetting the other one, but the answer was Riley. It sounded like Clarke guessed, and she took a 9-7 to lead. Question 4, the sequel to Romancing the Stone. Once again, she's laying up. Multiple choice. The answer was Jewel of the Nile. Clarke closes her turn with a 10-7 lead. That's a 4-point turn for her. Again, small ball. She laid up. She got a point for every question. Frank, give me your take so far on Clarke's turn.
Clarke is known to be kind of tentative in the second round. She goes multiple choice a lot, even when she has an idea of the answer. And that's something that kind of concerns me with Wolfe, because I just like to know, what is it that turns her to be cautious when she has a fairly decent idea of what the answer is? It kind of worries me, because when you go up against tougher players, such as Roka, who takes chances in the second round and he can capitalize on those 2 pointers instead of getting 1 point, that's something that that was in the back of my mind watching this second round of hers, because she's been like this in the past and it's worked out for her. It's a good strategy against someone like Ellis. I think it's kind of playing not to lose, but because you're not playing to win, I feel like, at that point. And I know she talked about how she wants to keep it close, and this is part of that strategy, and I get it. But I think eventually you're going to have to take some shots down the line and get in those bigger matches and just kind of go with your gut. But she didn't miss, so that's good, because you didn't give anything to Ellis. You didn't leave that opening, and that's pretty important against a guy like Ellis, who could steal, especially in action adventure.
Titan, what are your thoughts on Clarke's turn?
In round 2, Clarke played small ball. I'm famous for saying that. I feel like you guys were throwing shade at me in the last comments when I said Ellis was rusty, so I'll just take that on the chin. But yeah, she played small ball. She played it smart. She did how she played the game how it's supposed to be played, and Frank thinks it's a weak strategy. Fine, but she still got all the questions right. So at the end of the day, it's fine. That's all I got, man. I got nothing else.
Well, shifting to Mark Ellis's turn, he spun 90s, and he avoided the BDSM decision as he took the category. Question 1, Robert E. Lee in Gettysburg, who played him, a Virginia lover, should have gotten this. He took multiple choice, and he still missed it. And Clarke Wolfe stole it. She guessed Martin Sheen and got it. She went up 11-7. Huge point in the match, if you ask me. Question 2, who played Billy Crystal's son in City Slickers? I was screaming Jake Gyllenhaal from a mile away. He's my second favorite actor, second to Christian Bale, of course. He went multiple choice, but he got it. He took the score to 11-8. Clarke still had a 3-point lead. Question 3, what is the Rocketeers disguise? Multiple choice once again. So he's playing small ball, she's playing small ball, a lot of small ball everywhere. And the guess was Waiter. He got it. So Clarke's lead is cut to 2, 11-9. Question 4, director of The Last of the Mohicans, Michael Mann. No multiple choice, no small ball. He played big ball here. 11-11 tie heading into round 3. That's the end of a 4-point round for Mark Ellis. 1-point steal for Clarke Wolfe. So Clarke's steal essentially made up for her haunting miss to close round 1. Frank, give me your thoughts on Mark Ellis's turn.
I was pretty surprised he was struggling as much as he did during this round, especially given the category of 90s. I thought, yeah, it's broad. It goes across many genres, but I thought he would have done better. I know there were some difficult questions, but I expect Ellis to get those kinds of questions because I think he's that good of a player, and he really is that good of a player. So it was pretty surprising to me to see him go to multiple choice so many times, and in fact missed that first question. So it was kind of a surprising showing from him for me.
As a Phase 3 fan of Schmoes, no, not one of these Phase 6ers, I can attest to the fact that Ellis knows his Civil War trivia. He knows his Gettysburg history. So I'm stunned that he missed the Robert E. Lee question. Titan, were you just as stunned as I was?
I was very surprised, being a native West Virginian to his Virginian.
Yes.
Got to know that history. But something that happened that was very surprising to me, and I love Clarke, but during the City Slickers question, when she said, I know what it is, and Ellis hadn't even answered yet, if I'm Ellis and I don't know, her saying that, immediately I'm cutting the points in half. I'm not guessing. I'm not going to take a shot because she knows it.
Great point.
That's the only thing and she did it multiple times. Later on, it didn't matter because it was round 3, couldn't steal anyway. And I know it's like the adrenaline of the match, and it's not something you think about in the moment. And we're, of course, hindsight's 2020, yada yada. But I didn't like. I
actually disagree with that, because by her doing that, and let's say that affected Ellis, she's already taken a point away from Ellis from the get-go, right? And she's already had her turn. And I understand you would like the 2-point steal, but I think he would have went multiple choice anyway because he really didn't know. So even that aside, I still kind of like the fact that she said, I know it right before he even went multiple choice. And I think I would like that from any other competitor that did that. I kind of like that, actually.
Look, normally I would side with myself, but I'm going to go Team Aaron in this case because I do agree that you should have a poker face. Do not let your opponent know if you know anything because, yeah, that might affect their decision to select multiple choice. Perhaps it wouldn't have mattered in this case, but generally speaking, I think Aaron the Titan Turner has the right strategy in mind. So, folks, if you're listening out there, don't reveal your cards. Don't show your cards too soon.
I'm right. I'm right, guys. Don't worry. I'm right.
Well, let's move to round 3. It's still tied up 11-11. Mark Ellis' 2-pointer related to Bradley Cooper's wife in American Sniper. That's Puff Daddy's ex-girlfriend, Sienna Miller, who's got her career right back up to where it used to be. Mark Ellis takes the lead 13-11. Clarke Wolfe's 2-pointer, who played Roz in School of Rock. That's Joan Cusack, legend. Tied it back up 13-13. Mark Ellis' 3-pointer, Babe, Pig in the City director. The answer is George Miller, which he missed. I'm stunned he missed this just because his filmography was talked about a lot during the Mad Max Fury Road press tour. And a lot of this stuff came up as to the fact that he came back to this franchise while doing kids movies for his kids, including Babe, Pig in the City. I'm shocked that he didn't get this, but it's still tied 13-13. Clarke Wolfe's three-pointer, Bobby De Niro as Johnny Boy in Mean Streets. Clarke takes the lead 16-13, and I talked to her about this, and while it wasn't a complete guess, she had a slight inkling, but she pulled this out just based on the era, based on the 70s, and that this sounded like a film that came out in the 70s, and boy, was she right. This may be the biggest answer of her Schmoedown career. Mean Streets. Her dad would be awfully proud. And Mark Ellis, though, he had the chance to reclaim the lead with his 5-pointer. What was the name of her in Her? Scarlett Johansson, Spike Jonze's film. The name was Samantha. He missed it. Clarke Wolfe cements her win. Mean Streets got Clarke the win. So Aaron the Titan Turner, give me your thoughts on this huge W for Clarke.
I'll get to that in a second, but I just one clarifying question: did Sienna Miller really go out with Puff Daddy?
Absolutely.
Wow, that's actually fascinating to me. But yeah, man, wow, what a great win for Clarke. I'm sorry that we counted her out, so to speak. Not really, but we kind of did. And I was surprised that Ellis missing those last two questions. I felt like with her being more of a recent film in the George Miller discussion, like you said, I thought those would be easy pulls for him, or not, maybe not necessarily easy pulls, but I figured those would be things that he would know. And kudos to Clarke, man. Joan Cusack, she knew it right away. Mean Streets, she did some digging. Great win for her. Great win overall. Well done, Clarke.
Frank?
This is a huge win. It was going to be a huge win for either person, but this is a huge win for Clarke. I've seen a lot of people out in Schmoeville and the Schmoedown fandom kind of discount Clarke. And I know I picked Ellis, but I'm ecstatic that Wolfe won this match because I'm glad that she could prove to all the haters out there that she belongs at the top. People are always questioning, why is she ranked 4th? Why is she ranked so high? She's not that good, blah, blah, blah. She lost to Riley. This is why she's ranked that high. She can have these performances. We haven't seen this level of performance from her in quite some time, so I'm glad that it happened against an elite player like Ellis. And there's nothing more I can say, but congratulations, Clarke.
It's the summer of the W. Wonder Woman, Wonder Wolfe wins. This match was delightful, as Kathleen Kennedy would say. This is such a huge win for Clarke Wolfe, as well as the balance of power in this league. I'm kicking myself again, as you guys are, for picking Ellis, but maybe that helped. Maybe that helped reverse the energy, because Clarke's confidence, as I said, I knew she had won this match just seeing her reactions this week on various shows. And I've been saying this a lot lately, but the tide is turning in the Schmoedown. The women are beginning to make their mark thanks to the likes of the Crusher, the Classy One, Stacy, Brienne. This win will be a moment that we come back to many years from now as being one of those key turning points in league history. Mark my words right now. So Riley came out in the Emma view. He congratulated her, and he wisely said, "It's not about me right now. It's about you. I just want to congratulate you." Ellis said that he's ready for the ultimate Schmoedown, regardless of this loss. He's just ready. This was a tune-up match, if you will. Ellis picked the Patriots, Harloff, and anyone but Roca to win coming up at Collision, so he gave his picks. As I mentioned, Clarke corrected her Matthew Modine, Rennie Harlan mistake. Guys, thoughts on the Emma view?
You know, I'm glad that Ellis came out and said that, you know, he's ready for more Schmoedown. I wasn't sure if this was kind of like if he lost, that he was going to then take a break, kind of what Christian is alluding to if he loses. But I was glad to hear that even though he lost, he's back. He's going to compete more. He's going to be in the Ultimate Schmoedown tournament and other matches going forward the rest of this year, it seems like. So that was very nice to hear from him because to be honest, I have him on my fantasy team, and he hasn't been around in a while, so it's nice that he's showing up this late. Thanks.
Titan, do you think Mark and Christian said to each other, "Hey, man, I'm going to come back to the Schmoes No Show. And if I come back to the Schmoes No Show, you got to come back to the Schmoedown. Is that cool? Do you think that conversation took place?
I don't know if that's how they talk, but maybe. I'm not sure. One thing I want to point out, though, is when Ellis said that Clarke is a surefire first ballot Hall of Famer for the Schmoedown. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about last week when Frank and I both put Clarke on our Mount Rushmore.
Brian did not.
I regret it.
Brian did not, of course.
But Christian pays my bills, so.
Wait. Okay, we'll talk about that later. But anyway, I thought it was cool, and I thought it was kind of nice that Emma, I think she's the first person to really acknowledge it on camera that, yeah, Clarke has paved the way for so many female competitors, and she was giving Clarke her due, and that was really cool to see.
I actually gave her due in this same regard when
on
I talked
camera,
to her.
on camera.
Okay, those words matter, so I should have listened more closely. But we closed out the match with some more Ricky Schroeder kayfabe. So, guys, any ideas yet on what Ricky could be doing? I know Frank kind of kept himself out of this discussion as he might have an idea. So, guys, even though I asked you first, I just hope he doesn't join someone who's already a capable mouthpiece. Obviously, he's starting a new stable, but it'd be a waste if it's for someone who's already got a mouth. I mean, it'd be stupid for him to join the Lion's Den or the Horsemen or 6 Degrees when they already have great people on the mic. Even though McQueenie is more capable than we realize, Ricky Schroeder would still be a great fit for him, especially if Elliott follows suit, but I just don't get the feeling that that's going to happen. I don't think my dreams of Drew Barry with Ricky managing as the mouthpiece are going to be in the cards. So I think it's a new stable. I just don't want it to be for someone who can talk smack themselves. So Aaron, any concern, any ideas about Ricky's kayfabe?
I'm concerned about who would team up with Ricky. I'm very concerned about their mental state, but I'll just leave it at that. I don't know who it is. I tried to think about it. I tried racking my brain on who would want to team up with this guy. I don't know. I have no idea.
Ricky, you ain't so slick. I know what you're doing, buddy. I know what you're doing.
Frank knows. And Frank, I could ask you, is he going to be the mouthpiece for someone who can be the mouthpiece themselves? But that would be spoiling it, I guess, in a way, because we could figure out who's already good on the mic. But yeah, he needs to be utilized for someone that doesn't have skills. I rest my case. So that is it for the singles match, unless you guys have anything else.
That's all I got.
Oh, I got one thing.
Oh, Frank's got something.
This match for Clarke, and depending how things go at Collision, she's in line for another title shot very, very soon. Now, I don't know if she has to play the loser of Harloff Snyder to get a shot at the title, because to me, this is going to put her right at number 2. She'll be ranked number 2. Harloff Snyder going to go play. That winner will get a title shot. They're the number 1 contender. So she's, if I'm doing the rankings, she's moved up to number 2. And then what happens after Collision? Who's the champ? She's going to get a shot, I think, really quick. I don't know if the commissioner's going to have her play, whoever is number 3 at that point. I don't know. Maybe the loser of Harloff Snyder, I think, becomes number 3, and then she has to play that person, and then she gets the shot. I don't know. But I think she's going to get a title shot before the year's up. I think that's a real possibility right now.
Frank, I hope you're right. But let's get things back to Aaron Turner as we're going to preview a couple things like the Patriots in top 10. We're going to play some clips of this and ads for this. So stay tuned, folks.
We interrupt this amazing episode of the Schmoedown Rundown to bring you this news. Do you like what you've heard so far? Do you like the Schmoedown Rundown? And of course, why wouldn't you? Do us a favor. If you are listening on iTunes, please rate and review the show along with all the other shows on the Schmoes Know feed. If you are watching via YouTube on the SK Plus channel, be sure to like and leave a comment. We would really appreciate that, and it will help out all the other shows on the channel, such as Outlaw Nation with John Roca, the Harloff Podcast with Christian Harloff, The Wenger Show, among the rest of the shows on the channel. Something new for everybody every single day, so definitely check out the SK Plus feed and the Schmoes Know iTunes feed. And now back to the best looking host on the channel, Aaron Turner. All right, guys, we are back. It is team preview time this week. It is the championship match, the 4th of July special. And of course, how could you have the 4th of July without Team Patriots, JTE and Jeff Snyder versus the former champions, the guys they took the belts from, John Roca, Matt Nost, Team Top 10. Before we get to our takes, we got a chance to sit down with the leader of the Lion's Den, Mr. Tom Dagnino. Listen to this. What's going on, Movie Trivia Schmoedown fans? It's Aaron and Brian here, and we are talking to a man that builds champions. He's the leader of the most successful stable in the Movie Trivia Schmoedown. He nearly ran the table in the free-for-all. He is the king of chess definition, as he has said many times. He is Tom Dagnino. Sir, welcome back.
Happy to be here, guys. It's not the best faction. In my opinion, it's the only faction.
Well, that's a good point.
The Four Horsemen are in shambles. What losers those guys are. And then, you got the other guy who's managing the chicks, Jimmy Walker or whatever his name is, Kid Dynamite, Washington, that guy. And then the Young Bucks. Is that really a faction?
So they say.
Like, their manager is an idiot. Well, he was, but now he's off the team. He quits on people. He's terrible.
Smartest thing he ever did.
Terrible at the trivia. And then what's the other one? The DC guys?
Yeah, DC Movie News.
Crew?
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I like Roxy. I don't like her people that she's with, though. So whatever. She'll figure it out one of these days. She has an open invitation to come join the Lions Den if she wants.
Well, fair enough. Let's start there, actually. Let's talk about new Lions Den additions. Now, recently added was the Lioness, or the Queen of the Jungle, as she calls herself now, Grace Hancock.
Oh, yeah.
Where did that come from?
Well, like I said, she called me at 3 a.m. I didn't know who it was, and she said, I really want to be in a Lions Den. And I was like, you know what? Who is this? And she's like, it's Grace Hancock. And I go, who are you? She goes, the girl with the red hair who hangs out around in the office. I go, you know what? Count yourself in. And, basically we had our audition, I was like, look, here's how it's going to go down. Nothing can be, you have to be pro Lions Den every single second of your life. Lions Den's not on the Schmoedown, but in real life as well. And she passed the test. And, she's been great for us. And, she handles that loser Emma, who, is going to be put in her place real soon. I'm going to guarantee that.
Oh, wow.
Well, obviously, Wicked City's Grace Hancock has the qualities that you're looking for, but what qualities in general would you like to add that you currently don't have in the Den?
Well, I think we need somebody who could do the inner geekdom. I mean, this Hector Navarro character, he doesn't need a belt. He doesn't show up enough to be able to hold a belt. Like, I have the guy's a smart guy. Don't get me wrong about that. I just think we need a bigger face to hold that belt. And, if I can recruit the guy I'm looking for, I think that belt will be in our stable very, very soon.
So basically you're looking for people that don't have what you've expressed as LB, or loser behavior.
Correct. Loser behavior, 100%. And there's not many of them that do. Or not many that do have, winning behavior. So the search is few and far between. So I zeroed in on one or two guys, and we're going to see. I have a meeting with one actually tomorrow to see if we can talk about stuff and hash stuff out. Because he's technically known as a good person, but the Lions Den are great people.
Mr. Dagnino, how are you preparing your team, the Patriots, for victory on the 4th of July?
Well, I mean, top 10 is already, they're finished. They're washed up. It didn't really take much here. I think that there's so much, disorder in the Four Horsemen that they can't concentrate. Roca is a beaten man. Nose is too busy flipping pizza pies. I really honestly believe that this won't even be close. We're too good. Snyder is so good right now, and JT is really rounding in the form. I wouldn't be surprised if we keep this belt for the next 3 years. And I'm dead serious. They might retire champions at this point.
Well, last time we talked to you was a while back. It was right after the Mega Powers explosion. So a lot has happened since then.
Oh man, tons.
You're running a successful stable. You've got a multitude of champions. You told Dan Merle, who was the Movie Trivia Schmoedown champion, to hit the bricks.
Yes.
And you've formed quite this faction. You got Mark Andreyko in there. What do you say to these people that have second guessed you all this time?
They're losers. I mean, bottom line, I sat back and told everybody what I'm going to do. If you really listen to the last couple of episodes of the Schmoedown, when I'm there, I'm predicting what happens. I'm basically saying, look, I'd be surprised if this person does this or this person does that. I predicted 3 things in a row. And I think the 4th one is going to be Patriots versus, the Horsemen, which I think will be a fucking trouncing because they're done. They have nothing left. They should disabandon and take a hike and figure out something new to do.
One of your lieutenants, Jeff Snyder, is playing Mr. Commish at Collider Collision. Once your Patriots destroy top 10 on the 4th of July, are you worried that the deck will be stacked against Jeff just a few days later at Collision?
Absolutely. Christian Harloff is a cheater. I've said that numerous amounts of times. He favors, there's certain ways that he gets his way. You've heard me say it before. I think he gets very easy questions. Like what block does he live on, or what's his favorite pizza parlor, or whatever the case may be. I think, Schneider, of course, his back is going to be against the wall, and I wouldn't be surprised if some shenanigans happen. But they're not like the kind of shenanigans the Lions Den do. These are real inner working shenanigans that I really believe there's a conspiracy against the Lions Den, but we keep proving people wrong. So, they could do whatever they want, and we're just going to keep on winning. They'll keep cheating, we'll keep winning. So, like I said, the worst thing in the world is to be a cheater, to cheat and lose. I said it in the trial of JTE. It's if you're cheating and losing, you're a real loser. Now, when I cheat, I always win, but I don't have to cheat anymore because I'm just winning anyway. So if I ever really started stooping down to the cheating level, forget about it. I'd be the champion.
A man that always brings the real news. That is Tom Dagnino in a nutshell. I want to talk real quick about let's talk about your performance real quick. Right. Let's talk about Free For All.
Yes.
Now, it came down to the wire. I mean, there's a lot of good competitors in there. William Bibiani, Drew McWeeny, your own stablemate Mark Andreyko, and Jeff Snyder. But it came down to you and Sam Levine. How did that go for you, and what are your thoughts on that?
Well, the thing was, it really caught me by surprise. I didn't think I was going to be just facing Sam Levine. I didn't think he was going to knock out everybody. If one person would have got knocked out, it would have been me, Levine, Dennis, and whoever else. I was hoping I'd rather that than play Sam Levine on my own, because I would have rather beat 4 other people and knock 4 other people out. And to be honest, if I would have won, I would have passed on my that whatever it is, the chance of the championship. I would have probably gave it to somebody else in the stable.
Wow.
Yeah. Because I don't need to have a championship belt.
Because you're already a champion in life.
Exactly. I'm not great at trivia, but I'm great at life.
Mr. Dagnino, lately we've seen Ricky Schroeder from the disbanded ETC attempt to follow in your footsteps since you're the first manager. Have you set your sights on destroying him yet?
Who is he?
That Ricky guy from Team ETC, the former Team ETC.
Is that the producer-seducer guy?
Nah, some other guy with blonde hair.
because see, I don't know these other losers yet. They're not even on my radar. So I honestly don't know who he is. So he's really not on my radar yet. So I can't speak on him. But I'm assuming he's a loser.
Well, speaking of losers, let's talk about the pizza guy, someone who is on your radar because you're playing him coming up. My question is, why play someone who doesn't belong at the same table as you for the simple fact that you've created and refined an identity unlike anyone else, while the pizza guy puts no effort into his persona?
He really honestly doesn't. Win or lose against the pizza guy, I'm going to win anyway. Of course, I'm going to get cheated somehow. Look, they don't want me to win because the last thing they want me to do to be doing is having a championship belt, because I could do that if I want to. That's why I've already told you I've thrown matches before because I don't want to win. So I'm already winning too much. So it's like I'm going to sit there. Do I want to beat the pizza guy? Absolutely. I don't like the Four Horsemen. I don't like anybody in their stable. If you want to call it a stable. So I'm going to try my hardest to actually beat him. But, the only reason why I didn't win against Makuga, because I threw the last question, because I didn't want to be responsible for a mass suicide of all his fans. So that's what, that's the way it works. So, but yes, I think, in all honesty, I think we're pretty close in trivia knowledge, me and this kid. Hopefully he's, got pizza on the mind and other things like that. And let's hope that, he falters here and then, see who I play next. So we'll see. I think it's going to be a very close match, though. I don't think I'm going to blow him out.
I still think he should sit at a separate table from you, more like a kid's table of sorts.
Yeah. He's definitely a kid's table type of guy. I'll order pizza with, just pepperoni on it, giant pizza over, well done. He'll be at the kids' table eating like the one from Little Caesars you get in like 2 minutes in the microwave. Yeah,
cheese without sauce.
Right, that kind of guy, So we'll see. But I'm sure he'll have his sidekicks there, Roca and whoever else he's rolling with. But like I said, it'll be a good match. That's for sure. And if it isn't, I'm still going to win anyway. So it doesn't make a difference.
And that's the one thing I've noticed about the Horsemen is that if you ask me who's in the stable, it would take me a few minutes to figure it out because we hardly ever see them as a cohesive unit. When we see the Lion's Den, you guys are always together.
Oh, absolutely. That's why we got rid of Merle. He claimed that he got rid of us, but it's not the case. So we just thought he was good. We figured he was going to be a loser anyway. So we're like, you know what? You don't have the persona to be in our squad here. I don't like the way he wears the belt. I think Movie Fights is a fake show. I really don't believe that they deserve a belt for Movie Fights. So we'll see. Like I said, he called me up 3 a.m. He's like, "Hey man, I need you to come to the thing." And I'm like, "Look, man, we're not gonna make it. We're not gonna make it." And then he's like, "Am I done?" I'm like, "Yeah, consider that your toast from the Lions Den, obviously." And that's where he's at. But now he's trying to flip it like he left it. That's not the case. Nobody leaves the Lions Den. We kick people out, period.
I heard he complained about the commute a lot. He said the drive was too far from Beverly Hills, but that's another story.
Blah, blah, blah.
Now, the Patriots, ignore singles, teams, inner geekdom. Are the Patriots the Schmoedown's greatest entity currently?
Absolutely, no question about it. They're the best on the mic. They're the best when the game starts. These guys, there's really honestly no holes in their game. Maybe sport movies, maybe. But you go crime thriller, Tarantino, Denzel Washington, maybe musicals, but they don't. That shouldn't even be on the board. JTE, they're really good at Pixar and animation. Schneider, he's been in the business for like 70 years. The guy knows everything. I think Snyder's the best player in the game. I'll go ahead and say that. As long as he doesn't get cheated, he might be the first person to ever hold 2 belts at one time.
What is the current status of your relationship with the pit boss, Ken Knapsack?
Knapsack is a nice guy. Okay. Like I said, the inside. What is it, the Inside Schmoedown? Is that what it's called?
Yes.
Yeah.
They want me to be the co-host on there. I'm thinking about it, okay? Because Knapsack seems to have a chip on his shoulder, regarding me in the Lion's Den. I'm weighing the options whether or not I feel like hosting this thing with this guy. I think it might be pretty interesting. We'll see. But things will have to change before I jump on board. He'll have to start respecting the Lion's Den. That's for sure. That's number one.
Mr. Dagnino, it's been an honor and a privilege to be on the same airwaves as you. One day I'll tell my grandkids about the time I met the artist, sometimes known as Bobby Finstock.
I appreciate that, man. All I try to do is make people happy. And, if somebody's sitting behind their computer laughing, having a good time at my expense, then so be it. I like putting smiles on people's faces, bottom line. Whether or not people believe that or not, that's the question.
Well, Tom, we sincerely appreciate your time, and we look forward to seeing you in or around Collision and the July 4th Schmoedown team match. I'm sure we'll see plenty of you.
We got a lot of things planned. The Lions that are coming real strong for the next 6 months. We're going to finish this season. We're going to start doing things that, we're going to do things, but not really do things. And then we'll see how things happen. And obviously we're going to get cheated and things thrown at us constantly. I'm really hoping that the cheating calms down and people start to check stats and realize who the best squad and the best faction is in this, and the ratings grabs. And, obviously anything we're on is 200,000 plus. The most comments, the most, talked about things, and most shared things on the internet and everything. Hopefully these guys get a grip of that. We're clearly the best, and everybody else displaying loser behavior really needs to come, I guess, back to reality and honestly give us the props we deserve, period.
I don't think it's a whole lot to ask. I think as Schmoedown fans, we need to give respect to where it's earned. So,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, the Patriots are 6-0, about to be 7-0. They might do 10-0. Who knows? They're just fantastic. The only way they're going to lose is, like I said, if they get cheated, or if like JT's late and he's rough, his feathers are ruffled, or Snyder's had a bad day reporting news or something. Other than that, pretty unbeatable in my opinion. Then we're going to start. Grace is going to start doing some things as well. We're training her right now, so she's going to put Emma out of her misery real soon.
Well, there you have it. He is the man behind it all in terms of the Lion's Den. He is Tom Dagnino, sir. Thank you once again. We appreciate all the knowledge you have dropped on us today.
Hey, my pleasure, guys. My pleasure.
Send our regards to Frank, by the way.
I saw him the other day. That's another story, though. He was raising hell in a restaurant because he didn't get seated quick enough, because his brother was there too. Sly was there with the family, and he didn't know his brother was there. Frank was with a couple of plastic-faced producer guys, and they couldn't get a seat quick enough. Frank stormed out, got his car, and took off down the block. And 20 minutes later, I went to another restaurant. Frank's there sitting at the bar drinking cranberry vodkas, talking about how he didn't get to a restaurant. He's the best.
All right, guys. Patriots top 10. We heard from Tom Dagnino. We know who he's picking. Frank, who are you picking?
I'm picking top 10 all the way.
Shocker.
Well, I mean, the numbers point to top 10. You do want to know the numbers, don't you?
Of course. I don't know the numbers. Enlighten me.
So lifetime averages of answering questions correct favors top 10. 78% is their lifetime average. Patriots at an 72%. Now, if you look at their opponents, each team's opponent, their level of play, top 10 usually faces tougher opposition, a tougher match. Top 10's opponents are averaging 65%. Patriots, their opponents are answering about 61%. So, Now, if you look at their two title matches, their first two title matches, if you compare them head-to-head, the Patriots in their first two title matches answered 66% correct. Top 10 in their two title matches, their first two, they're averaging or have averaged 76%. That's a 10% difference when they're in a championship format. So clearly, top 10 excels in a championship format in a way that the Patriots do not. Now, here's another fun stat that I'm looking at with JTE specifically between box office breakdown when he had that one match against top 10 in 2015, and now JTE JTE with the Patriots with Jeff Snyder against top 10. JTE's teams answering 63% top 10 against JTE in those matches, answering 72%. Now I know the Patriots beat them, and I know box office breakdown beat top 10, but sooner or later the numbers are going to catch up to the Patriots, and that's why the top 10 team is going to win against the Patriots come July 4th.
Well, there you have it. You've got the numbers, Brian. Who are you leaning towards?
I said last week that the Patriots were going to crush team top 10 or perhaps team bottom 10. The question isn't whether the Patriots will win or not, it's how many they will win by. Top 10 just can't compete with the pizza guy being such a liability. And even when he happens to play relatively well, Rocha doesn't seem to show up on those days. So I appreciate the fact that the pizza guy finally took my advice per the promo and dressed like the Charlie Prince to Outlaws Ben Wade, but it's a little too late. The Patriots will go on to achieve their fourth title defense, cementing themselves as the greatest championship force the Schmoedown has ever seen, regardless of which league it is, teams, singles, inner geekdom, it doesn't matter. They are the most dominant championship entity we've ever seen in the Schmoedown. And I just realized that this match could serve as the catalyst for one of my earlier predictions, the Horseman's demise. It also sets up one of my other predictions that the Beast debut team with Whitney will face off against Sam Basher or DC Movie News. So this very match will set forth the events that break up the Horsemen and lead to the Beast joining teams, I think. So Patriots.
Huh. Oh, you had me going there for a second. Frank, I heard your numbers, and thank you for that. I'm going with the Patriots.
Blasphemy!
Sorry. They're the only team to defend those team titles. They are undefeated. They have shown that they can win. They can blow out teams. They've showed they can win the close ones. I like this team a lot, man. I don't see them giving up the belts for a while. I'm pro-Patriots. It's July 4th. How can you go against any team other than the Patriots? If you're not going against the Patriots, you're un-American. Stop it. Patriots are taking this one.
They're actually team communist, okay? So let's get that straight.
I didn't see a sickle on their shirt, so why don't you just knock it off, sir?
Well, that's because you only want to see what you want to see. It's there.
Okay.
Guys, I don't think they can be beaten by anyone in this league currently. So if the Beast starts his own team, which I fully expect, that is the only threat, especially if he joins up with Whitney, that is the only threat that I could see potentially posing a challenge. The current mix of teams really don't faze me. As much as I love Rotten Tomatoes, they're my favorite team, as much as I love Nerds Watch, as much as I love IGN, I don't see any team that is anywhere in the Patriots bracket or tier.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of the Schmoedown Rundown. But before we go, interesting things are happening next week, next Wednesday. We're going to have a preview special for Collider Collision. We're going to go over all the matches that are going down. We're going to predict each and every one of them. We have 6 guest interviews lined up. You're not going to want to miss it. It's the biggest show that we've ever done. It's going to be huge. My name is Aaron. You can find me on Twitter at ATTitanium if you wish. Of course, you can check out my new wrestling podcast, Wanna Wrestle, at soundcloud.com/WannaWrestlePod. We've got episode 2 coming out pretty soon, talking about the women's revolution and how Glow has influenced WWE programming this month. Frank Janisch, how about you, sir?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at FrankieJ29, and keep a lookout for the Schmoedown weekly recap on schmoesno.com.
Fantastic. Brian Davids, sir, where can you be found?
Follow me on Twitter at BDF331. Check out my TV film podcast at filmschlubspodcast.com or wherever podcasts are found. Special thanks to Floyd Pinkster, that is Clint Lajeunesse, as well as Shane Bowman at HeisenbergChronicles.com, as well as Collider's own Ray Ora for all their help with graphics.
Don't forget about the preview special on Wednesday. We'll check you out next week. We'll see you.